never went into REM sleep. It was as if Yah didn't make my body to need it or something. So as I lay in Deborah's bed, surrounded by her scent, my subconscious listened as she moved around the compound speaking with different people. However, when she began to speak with her men, I came awake fully, turning on my back, putting my hands underneath my head as I listened. I liked the man Tame. I had spoke with him briefly last night, and I had a real good feeling about him. He would more than likely make an excellent warrior of Yah. But I listened to the reflection in Deborah's voice as she told her men to become my men. She was determined to leave. She had it in her mind that she would leave her people in my hands, giving her the exit she needed to walk away, with her conscience clean and free. I shook my head. She was tired. She felt wore out. She wanted rest. But what she didn't know, that I was going to have to show her, is now that her man is here, things will get much easier for her. Don't get me wrong, she is tough, very, an excellent fighter. But she would have to learn about Yah's design of man and woman. As a man, I am built to take and be able to withstand certain things that a woman was not built to withstand. Now, I'm not saying a woman can't do it. Sure she can. Debra was living proof of that. And every single mother in the world that's raising them kids, taking care of the house, getting it done, they're proof of that. However, she felt wore down and depleted. When I, on the other hand, I was made for this. It came easy to me. Now I'll admit something. I'll admit something that does not come easy to me. I had no idea how to help my daughter. I know she had been traumatized by the death of her mother. She had gone from being a child that laughed and played to a child that sat and stared overnight. I know she needed a tender hand, and I was clueless at how to provide it. My dad did not raise a tender man, and thank Yah for that. Because had I been tender, I would have not survived the last 12 years of my life. Had I been tender, I would have not made it out of that desert alive. It took me 8 years of roaming through the wilderness, enduring test after test to make it out. There were times that I thought I would lose my mind. Hell, there were times I thought I had lost my mind, only to hear a voice tell me to get up, fight, pray, keep moving. I was shown things that no man should ever have to see. I was shown things that my brother saw daily. And yes, it did. It made me want to scream. I rubbed my hands down my face. Monroe. I didn't understand. I didn't understand, Ak. I exhaled. Eventually, I nodded back off to sleep. I really was tired. I haven't slept in 3 days. My last thought, though, before I succumbed, was that I should have followed my first mind last night and put old Baxter boy out of his misery. After I took Yafa back upstairs and laid her down in the bed next to her father, I did my rounds. Bill and I went to look at the busted lock on the gate that blocked off the tunnel that ran from inside the compound to the woods outside. It was one of many hidden escape routes that Father had designed into this place. I told Baxter yesterday that this latch needed to be replaced. He said it could wait till morning. And look, this is the very way they got in, Eugene said. He was a kind man who had appointed himself groundskeeper here. I stared at the latch. How in the world had Dawid even known about this route? The only way he could have is if one of my people told him. Nobody else will know it exists. But I knew my people. They wouldn't tell anybody how to get in here and steal the little we had. So this is not making any sense. I looked up at Bill, the blacksmith. Before the flare hit, he was sought after for his famous Bushido blades. He had traveled here to America from Japan when the flare hit, stranding him here. Do you think you can fix this? I asked him. He nodded once. Sure, D. I fix. I smiled at him. Over the last few years, his English had improved greatly. When we first found him fighting off a group of blood fiends with one of his famous swords, he couldn't speak any English. Thank you, I told him. Then I left him to it. Eventually, I made my way back to the garden. The weather was so fickle. Over the last 2 years, there hadn't been such thing as a season. Right when you thought it was spring, there would be a snowstorm. Or when you thought it was winter, like I assumed it was right now, you would have a day like today, where it was at least 80 degrees. That was good and bad. The good part was all that snow that had been on the ground yesterday was now melting and providing water for our garden. The bad part was, because of the fickle weather, the things that we can grow was limited. We grew a lot of greens, kales, collards, cabbages, that kind of thing. Onions, potatoes, radishes, beets, carrots. We had about 10 apple trees, 10 cherry trees, a few herbs that all grew well in this crazy weather. We have built 3 big greenhouses for the other things that could not take the occasional cold snap. It was a lot of work maintaining it. And before Dawid and his people came, the few of us here had to pull multiple duties in order to keep up with not just the garden, but the day-to-day upkeep of the compound as a whole. Now that Dawid had assigned 30 hands to work the garden at a time, it went a lot smoother. When I was done for the day, my belle gave me a few leeks and potatoes and a couple stems of cilantro for dinner. Then I made my way upstairs. When I first opened the door to my loft and saw Dawid sitting at the table cleaning his guns, I almost grabbed my piece and shot him, forgetting that he was here. He looked like he had gotten enough rest and showered and changed. Where earlier he wore that black thermal that hugged his muscled chest, now he had on a white one that still hugged his chest beautifully. Little Yafa sat on the floor by his feet, playing with some bullets, stacking them up in rows. My mouth fell open. Really, Dawid? Bullets? I said, walking to the table, putting the items I had down on it, before I squatted down in front of the baby, scooping up the bullets. What? He asked, looking up puzzled. I shook my head at him. Babies shouldn't play with bullets. That's just wrong. She held up her arms for me. I smiled, scooping her up. Hi, my heart, I told her. I have something for you. I picked up a piece of the dried fruit that my belle had wrapped in a napkin for her. She took it and she began to eat on it. I put her in the chair. Dawid looked huge sitting at my table. He looked up at me with a smile on his handsome face. You got something for me? He asked. I rolled my eyes. I told you, I'm not feeding you. I took out a pot and I filled it with water, putting it on to boil. So, you just gonna let me starve? I shrugged. What do I care? He put his hand on his chest. Wow, you cold. I smiled. Yep, and that's what they tell me. You sure do look pretty today. I inhaled, smothering the pleasure his compliment gave me. Don't try to change the subject, I told him. What are you gonna do? Because I'm not cooking for you. I'm serious. He shrugged as he picked up a piece of his gun that he had taken apart and began to wipe it down with a cloth. Then I won't eat. It won't be the first time. How was your day? He asked. I shrugged as I added seasoning to my pot. Just another day. He chuckled. Another day you woke up in your right mind, still as flawlessly beautiful as the day before? I would say that's a blessing. I rinsed off the potatoes before I began to dice them. You may see it that way. I don't. Yafa finished her piece of fruit and then held out her hand for another piece. I smiled and handed it to her. She was so precious. Why not? He asked, his deep voice playing havoc on my spine. Damn, what was going on with me? My hands was unsteady as I cut the potatoes. I think he was making me nervous. Because this world sucks. This place sucks. And waking up to it every day ain't nothing to write home about. Damn, baby. You make it sound worse than it is. Okay. I dropped the potato I was cutting in the bowl in the sink before I turned around to look at him. First off, I ain't your baby, so don't call me that. Second off, don't come up here and act like you know me, cause you don't. He sat back in his chair and casually lifted his arms, clasping his hands together in the back of his head. He had a slight smirk on his face. Yeah, well, I bet I do know you, he said. I narrowed my eyes at him. I can assure you, you don't. His smirk grew. If you're so sure about it, then take the bet. What are we betting for? If I lose, and I don't know you, then I will leave your space up here, and me and Yafa will go stay elsewhere. But if I win, and I do know you, then you gotta make a bowl of that delicious smelling soup you're making over there. I looked at him thinking hard about it. That was a great deal, him leaving my space. But he wanted to take Yafa. My eyes fell on her. She was working on eating one piece of fruit, and before she could finish, she held her little hand out for me. For another, I gave it to her. I didn't really want him to take her, but I have to admit to being curious as to how far his abilities went. He is an excellent warrior, and one didn't get that way without having eyes that could see. I smiled at him. You got it. It's a deal, I told him, wanting to see just how much he could see. The smile left his face, and his deep brown eyes gazed into my soul. You were hurt when you were younger. Real bad. Not by your father. Maybe a friend of your mother's. A boyfriend. He hurt you both. I gripped the sink so hard my knuckles turned white. It felt like I had been sucker punched in my stomach, leaving me breathless. I was not expecting that. Frowning, I looked into his eyes, and for the life of me, I couldn't break the contact. You, in return, hurt him. Bad enough to land you in the system. My heartbeat sped up, and I was finding it hard to breathe. That's where they found you, wasn't it? They hurt you more, didn't they? Sometime you prayed for death. I blinked back the tears that came to my eyes. I know how you feel. I know what it's like to go to bed and fear waking up, because you know that tomorrow is just going to start all over with the pain again, he whispered. I turned around to the sink, and I wiped away tears that fell from my eyes. Goodness, how fresh those wounds felt. Every last one of them. I jumped when I felt his presence behind my back, my hand automatically squeezing the knife tightly. I had not heard him get up from his chair, let alone walk towards me. I'm sorry you had to go through those things you did, he whispered, so close to my ear. Slowly, his big hands appeared on the sink, where he clutched it on both sides of me, trapping me in his arms. I closed my eyes and I tried to calm the panic that was flaring up in me. I was going to kill him with this knife I held. I couldn't control the crippling fear that shot through my body. It screamed for me to protect myself. Easy, beauty, he whispered. Easy, baby. I will never, ever hurt you. Never. And any voice that is telling you different is a liar. My breath was coming in and out of my body in shadow wisps. I was going to kill him. Dawid, please step back. My voice shook. My hand began to hurt from squeezing the knife so tight. You're in control, baby. If you feel like you have to kill me, then do it. But I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just standing here, next to you. Let us just stand here, together. Breathe, baby. Take deep breaths with me. In and out. I felt his chest expand on my back. In and out, he whispered, so close to my ear. I breathed in and I let it out. In and out, he repeated. I took a deep breath in and out. My next breath lined up with his. Our chests rose and fell together. One heart, he whispered. One breath. His voice was like a warm caress down my spine. One body. Can you feel that? He spoke so close, his lips gently brushed up against my ear. After a few minutes, my fingers loosened around the knife and it clattered loudly as it fell down into the sink. Good job, baby. He spoke so close to my ear. And now that the panic was no longer racing through my body, something else began to happen to it. My breath began to do something different. I bit down on my lip. Damn it. I think for the first time in my life, I was feeling lust. Dawid chuckled in my ear and gently leaned his forehead against the back of my head. What am I going to do with you, beauty? He said. I can't even begin to explain the wide range of emotion that was going through me right now. What Dawid had just done was past amazing. The soldier in me was so impressed, while the woman in me that had obviously been dormant was awakening for the first time in my life, and I didn't know how I felt about that. And still, he stood behind me with his hands on the sink, and although he didn't touch me with anything but his head that leaned against mine, I was very aware of his whole body, his big chest that was only inches from my back, his belly that still expanded and contracted with my own, his core, his muscled thighs, even his feet that were on both sides of my smaller ones. For the first time in my life, I felt feminine. I stiffened. That couldn't be good. That was dangerous. I whipped around and too late realized my mistake. His face was inches from my own. His lips, goodness, his lips, those dangerous lips. My eyes fell to them and he smiled. I put my hand on his chest and tried to push him back, but he was solid as a wall. My hands just kind of lingered on these impeccable pecs on their own accord. He leaned in closer. Oh my goodness, he was going to kiss me. I think I was freaking out, and yet my head did not move back. I licked my lips that had suddenly gone dry. His eyes followed my tongue. What was I doing here? Did I want him to kiss me? I think I did. Unknowingly, I moved my lips closer. My eyes closed on their own. Secretly, I had always wondered what it was like to be kissed, what it was like to be held by a man, loved by a man. And now it was going to happen. However, it never happened. I opened my eyes and he was smiling down at me. So, am I going to be able to get that bowl of soup or what? My mouth fell open before I snapped it closed. Damn it, I just embarrassed the hell out of myself. He must think I'm an old cougar or something. I straightened. My eyes fell to my hands that were still firmly planted on his chest. I snatched them back as if they burned, nodding my head. I cleared my throat because that came out kind of husky. I guess I could spare a bowl. Quickly, I turned around to the sink so that he could see how embarrassed I was. So glad for my dark skin. What in the world had just gotten into me? I did not even recognize myself. I have never, ever done anything like that. I finished dinner without any more mishaps, and I had given myself a pep talk the whole way. I had to keep Dawid away from me. That much was obviously clear. He was dangerous. Very. I didn't get the reputation of being a deadly, cold woman by happenstance. I got that reputation because I never slipped, never let down my guard, and I absolutely never permitted a man to get within inches of my space. Well, unless I was applying a beatdown. I looked at Dawid, who sat across from me at my little round table. He was so big and my table was so small that it put him closer to me than what was comfortable. Little Yafa was knocked out in my bed, she having filled herself up on dried fruit. She didn't make it to dinner, which meant it was just he and I. He smiled at me as he chewed, his powerful jaws moving underneath his beard. He watched me with eyes that saw too much. It was as if he knew all my secrets, all my desires. There was something about him that was not normal. He was not, it was almost as if he was supernatural. There wasn't many men I had come up against that I didn't know how to handle. But I had to admit to myself as I looked over at this man that even now at rest, eating a meal reeked of power, that I may be, just a little bit, may be frightened of him. Not because I fear for my life. No. In my line of work, death was a constant threat. I had gotten used to that. It was the way he made me feel. He was dangerous. And if I didn't watch myself, just as easily as he slipped through the lock to invade this compound, he would slip through the lock to invade my heart. And we can't have that.